All right. Welcome back, my friends, to the podcast that never ends. Your podcast. I'm simply the host. All right. Ways in which to find this podcast. Man, it's expanded. We got a ton of places to go to now. You've got, of course, the usual suspects with iHeart, Spotify, Google, Spreaker, so on and so forth, Amazon, everything else. Well, guess what? It's also on YouTube. It is also on Deezer. It's on Pod Addict, Podchaser, JioSaavn, Deezer. If you've been listening from there, you know where to listen to. You know what to listen to. The voice of this person right here, Mike Kingston, your host, of course. All right, so basically what's happening is that it's on YouTube. Actually, YouTube from episode 22 on all the way through now is actually picking all this up, and it's actually there too. It's an audio podcast. Of course, I have a face for an audio podcast, of course. So that makes complete sense, right? Well, I'm also working on TikTok. Pretty soon it's going to be on TikTok as well. And it's going to be a process. I'm trying to get that all done. I'm also Amazon Music. I'm almost on board. They're now wanting me on there. So you're talking 14 places. Again, TikTok as well. And I'm just trying to get this out there for all of you. So what I have here is I've also done some extra work, hard work and research and everything else. So what's happening is that because nobody else would respond to an email, to a phone number, or anything else, all they would simply do is not answer. If someone sees me word of mouth, they would sit there and go up to me and go, Mike, you know what? You did this over here. What about this over here? And I get probably 4 to 5 ideas a day. I have everything logged. I've done 26. This is the 27th episode. This episode, by the way, in the middle of all this process, not going on a tangent, is A Winter's Tale. It's a conversation with a wonderful person named Winter. She's going to be on here, and we're going to be rocking and rolling. It's my first interview and / conversation, and a dynamic, amazing, wonderful person, and she's going to speak for herself. Look, plenty times. I'm going to get the rest of this done. We're going to go from there, but let me tell you something. This is going to be awesome. So the other ways in which you have to communicate, not to listen to the show, because you have the other 13, 14 places to do that. You've got it on Facebook. Just look up Arena of Ideas, and you're going to see the Arena of Ideas. You'll see the picture of the Roman Coliseum, but it's actually an illustration of it. And you look up Arena of Ideas, and it pops right up. Okay, you'll find that. That's a way in which to, again, get back at me. Hit me up with all this. Instagram, Mike Kingston 20. There you go. That's for Instagram. Look that up. For Snapchat, Mike K 2022722. Again, start writing this down or record it or go back and keep looking it up, but get at me there at Snapchat. Twitter, it's at Mike, MikeKin 332-95359. All right? Boom. That's how you get those, the main 4. That stands for fist, right? Like you raise your fist. FIST. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter. Like you raise your fist for what you believe in. That's exactly the way in which I'm looking at this acronym right here. And again, YouTube, all you do is you go in there. I've got my picture exactly from the Roman Coliseum, and you just type in Arena of Ideas, and it's right there. You're in the know. You're right here, right now. And from here on out, I'm going to be going up with a rebuttal over another episode, but this is going to be from now on. There's a podcast disclaimer I'm going to be giving every single episode to explain everything. The views and opinions expressed in this and all Arena of Ideas podcast episodes are that of the host and guests, not to be taken out of context, misrepresented by any means possible. All right, that's every single one. I never actually had one, again, brought to my attention by Laura and by Carrie. So I'm going to give them the credit for the disclaimer because they're the ones that came up with this whole issue. All right. So if you want to go back, listen back, look the ways up to get back into this. All right. So okay, so I just gave you the information there and everything else. I also want to give a big shout out to Spreaker, Speaker with an R. They're the ones that gave me this opportunity, right? They totally did. I gave you back the answer back, word of mouth, and the email and the phone number, as well as what I just gave you as the other additional things to get into. All right? So go in there, download, subscribe, hit the plus, do whatever you can do in the way in which you can get and to help me get the impressions and everything else going on, because that's what it's measured in, impressions. If you download it, if you go in and subscribe, you click the whatever check mark or whatever you can do, however you can do it, it gives me the idea of what's going on here. All right? So, I am the conduit of content, the voice of the people, for the people, by the people. This is an all-information podcast wielding truth, humor, wit, sarcasm, freedom like a verbal weapon, right? This is the experiment at the crossroads between content, conversation, reinvented. This is a podcast for everything, anything, everything, all things for everyone. This is your place to be. It's the triad of talk, the forum of focus. It's straight fire, no holds barred, off the cuff, shoot from the hip, wake up call. If you're not awake by now, guess what? I can't help you. You need to be here, though. Even if you're listening at night and in your head, you're subliminally listening, I don't care. Please be here. Be here for me and for what we need to do. Because, again, I consider all of you my family and friends, and that's why we are here. So, again, we can go into these spontaneous things like epic fail, social mania, nothing's out of bounds, gloves are off, step your game up, oh, by the way, give me an A, give me an F. Those are all things you want to throw in. We can make those as discussion points or parts of the segment as to what's going on. All right, so if you're screaming at the TV, the radio, or the sky, or in your head over the BS that's out there, this is your place to be. I'm just trying to live my best life here, and basically, how do we light the candle? You know how we light the candle. If you've got pet peeves, your OCD, your rants, raves, beefs, issues, etc., all are accepted here. The how's whys, WTF, LOL, are you kidding me? You're killing me. If it wakes you up in the morning or keeps you up way late at night, you need to be here because this is what this is all about. Again, this episode, that's your open and everything. It's awesome because Winter wanted this opportunity to kind of book in things and kind of get things going. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break for a little bit of bumper music. And when we come back, this amazing, enigmatic, great, wonderful person that needs no introduction, doesn't even need me to talk about her or who she is or what she represents. But let me tell you something. It's going to be worth every minute. You're going to be listening and hanging on every single word. And when we get back, it's time for A Winter's Tale. All right. I'm back, and I'm back here. Joined with me is a person I've already talked about 3 or 4 times. Needs no further introduction or ado. Right now, what we're going to do is this is a conversation. It's not an interrogation. I was just explaining to Winter that this is not an interrogation. It's an opportunity to speak and speak your mind. So here we go. Right now, we have again the 27th episode, Winter's Tale.
Well, that was a hell of an introduction. I feel like really flattered and stuff like that. So yeah, this is Winter. I'm known as Princess Winter on Twitter. If anyone follows me on Twitter, my handle is @SuperWinterGirl. So a little bit about me. I was born in a small town in Utah called Grantsville. I'm a trans girl. Means I grew up as somebody else when I was little. Soul searching is kind of an interesting thing, especially when you're a part of a religion that's like discussing like salvation of the immortal soul and stuff like that. I mean, like I personally believe. I mean, I personally have my own faith in God, and I believe that like that. I believe that God is, that God loves me for who I am, regardless of whether or not regardless of, he loves me as Winter Naomi Vera. He didn't need, he was glad to know the previous version of me, but even though that wasn't the real me. But he's stood out there. He's like paved the way for me to be where I am now. And I've been living full time as myself since 2015, and it's been really wonderful. I've been working at so I started school. So through the church, we moved from Grantsville to Pueblo in 2012, and initially I was like, it was when I finally realized that. Thank you. It was when I finally realized that I was in a better place in my, or it was when I finally realized that there was family that I could be a part of, that I was not going to be judged as a trans girl and stuff like that. And yeah, I'd already realized that who I wasn't a mistake. It wasn't like being deceived by the temptations of the devil or anything like that. Who I was the real me. And I found a friend in the church that I stayed with as I was kind of building myself out. And I was, and I I lived at the school with my friend, and then I decided, you know what, while I'm living at the school, I might as well go to school. And so I went to school, it was the best experience. It felt like kind of a cliche to say it, but it felt like a home away from home. And then, the school kind of or the class kind of went, I couldn't afford to pay down my financial restriction for my final year, so I was working for the longest time to do that. And then I started working as a podium usher, and that's where I met Mike. I'm the one. So strictly, the job is seat and auditorium number, theater number. But for
working
me,
at the podium, right?
Working at the podium.
So just remember, basically, she worked at Cinemark here in Pueblo, Colorado. Not to break into what she's saying, but giving you some context, because again, you have to kind of fill it in. You have to fill it in because everyone has to be able to understand. So what's happening is that at the front, you've got the concessions. As you walk to the lobby, you've got concessions, and then we sweep over, and then you've got the person running the podium, which of course, Winter, one of the greatest ever, would go there and not only do what she has to do to get people passed to the theaters, but has the amazing ability to spin yarns like a tapestry of words. And I'm going to let her speak now. But anyway, that's what's happening. She worked the podium and was at the gate, if you will, for the magic that would happen on the silver screen.
Exactly. And that's the way I see it too. Like for me, movies have always been like kind of a cliche to say, but like a magical experience. Like each time I go to the movies, I'm like transported to another world. Like with books, I mean, books are a whole different transcendent level, but like with movies, like you are just immersed with what's right in front of you, and what's right in front of you changes, and you like, and it's so much, even more exciting to like be in the theaters with a lot of people and everything like that. And it's such an incredible experience. And it's like, it's something you can't get anywhere else. Like you can't get it on TV or anything like that.
It's recorded.
Yeah. You're like, so you're in the middle of like, just, you can see every single time you go to a movie, whether it's one that takes place in the real world, whether it's one that takes place in a fantasy world, whether it's one that takes place in a world that's a mixture of the two. Like, it's a different experience every time, and it's a thing of beauty. And I love being there, being the one, like, bringing people into this. And I know that, like, not everything, like, it's not just going to the movie. There's things you need to be prepared for and everything like that. There's things that you might miss if you just get up and leave, or if you're just like, I'm just going to sit here and watch and stuff like that. And
so basically what's happening is that, okay, like if you're going to take a tour bus, and okay, let's say we're just going to drive to the city, right? And let's say metaphorical city, USA. And we don't know what's there, and we don't know anything. We're just going to simply get on the bus, not have a person like Winter be able to narrate exactly what goes on, what we're doing. Mm-hmm. We're in the process of it all. Winter has this amazing ability. I'm going to let her speak again, but she has this amazing ability to take us on that tour bus. We're on that metaphorical tour bus. We're all sitting in our seats. Don't. Oh, by the way, you back there listening, it doesn't matter what seat you're in. Every seat matters. And the words that Winter says, she paints this picture like we're coming up to the first building. Not only are we seeing the building and the beautiful architecture in front of us and this wonderful sunny day that we're in, but Winter is also giving us the full background, the depth, the concept, the context. If you just close your eyes, painting with words, this amazing tapestry of what is out there as per that movie and everything else. So again, just think of that metaphorical tour bus that we're on right now. And you know what? She's not driving. She's simply standing there. We're all listening. We're listening over hearing. Remember, guys, this is my podcast, listening over hearing. And now it's the curtain's about to come up. It's about to come on. But right now we have the narration by Winter.
And yeah, like I don't just direct you to the. I don't just direct you to like where your theater is and stuff like that. In a few, like, I do all of that he just said in just a few words. Because, like, I know that, like, I know that I'm, like, not the only, I know that there's, like, a lot of people there. But I want to just stop and let everybody know, like, what I want them to know. I want to let everybody know that I'm seeing them. I'm seeing, like, what they're wearing or whatever. And I also want them to know when to leave. So I'm one of the few that I will tell you when there's a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene. And just a few words in like one sentence, I can tell you what any movie's about. And and then I've got my little jokes, so when you get your ticket, when your ticket's scanned, you can go anywhere you want, I tell people, like, you can go anywhere you want except for a bank robbery. It's not that we won't let you in. We just we just discourage law breaking and moral infractions.
Well, just remember, humor and sarcasm, wit, sarcasm, humor, you wield all this. Well, let me tell you something. This is my view and version on what exactly she's saying. Okay, here's the deal. You've got about 10 to 15 seconds, like an elevator pitch, where you have to pitch someone and sell someone on any one thing. It's an elevator pitch, but you have 10 seconds, a compressed window of 10 seconds to get across exactly what you want to say, the information you need, do it in a warm, witty, personal way, like Winter always does, and has this way of bringing you drawing you even beyond the trailers you've watched before you went to go see it, or something that qualified and quantified you to want to go see this movie, that's fine. That's a trailer, that's whatever. But guess what? This is the extra added value when it comes to going to see a movie. It's her 10 to 15 seconds that allows you the opportunity to delve in almost like cliff notes in a book. This is how I perceive and how I see Winter and the amazing things that she does. And as a little sidebar note for you here, Winter and her brother are going to be working on a podcast. We don't have the name, but they don't have the name built up or anything. And I don't want to step on her toes. She's going to be coming out of the podcast, but you're going to hear all these extra added, value added things and these important things you needed to hear. And I'm going to let her get back into it. But this is the way in which I perceive the way in which she brings it to you. 10 to 15 seconds, and it's the best 10 to 15 seconds of value you're going to have in that entire place that you're in watching that movie. Go ahead, Winter. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
There you go.
And he's absolutely right. I absolutely loved my job. I loved the idea of the fact that I can offer something that they don't get from anyone else, or they currently won't get from anyone else. I will offer that at some point, or I will tell you more about that toward the end of the podcast. But yeah, I'm very grateful for the job that I've had. My last day was recent, but I've been very grateful for it. Right now, this is the first podcast I've done in a while. I've been a guest on a number of podcasts. I also there was also at the CSU Pueblo. For one of my classes, I did record a podcast with one of my professors, and that's something I'm doing. And we're going to be moving into the present in just a few minutes.
So, real quick, Winter, I'm going to throw this in there. So, you've done all these other podcasts and everything else. You've had all these other experiences, right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So,
yeah.
So again, I started out bare bones. I simply had a bunch of ideas. I had a bunch of different things. And I know what I wanted to do to get things out there in this arena of ideas. You're in it. You're definitely a part of the embodiment of what this exactly is. So you had all these other experiences. What do you think about the one you're in right now? I'm not trying to pressure you, but what do you think about the one you're in right now?
I'm really enjoying it. It's far more professional, I guess would be the proper word, than what I'm used to. Although in the podcast I did for CSU Pueblo, it was CSU Pueblo. It was the Mass Communications Department. Yeah, I'm majoring in mass communications, I'm in journalism, and I'm majoring in journalism and sociology, and I'm minoring in creative writing and women's studies. And so, this isn't my first experience in front of a microphone, and there was a much more elaborate, because it was at a school and the school could afford it, there was a much more elaborate system there. But the latest podcast was the previous podcast was kind of a comic fan podcast, and we'd discuss the return of Ben Affleck to The Flash and my excitement for, kind of. The more things change, the more things stay the same. My excitement for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson finally being able to play Black Adam, the film coming out, and everything like that. I'm really excited for that. I'm really looking forward to. Then we discuss the release of the announcement of Zack Snyder's Justice League being released and everything like that, And it's been a while since I've done a podcast, so I want to start again from maybe a little bit from where I left off, and then pick up with something else.
And by the way, I did not pay her on anything she said here. Again, I worked this from the bare bones up. I told you guys before, I don't have a mass communications degree. I don't have anything. I have a bunch of ideas and things in this wonderful podcast. But the bottom line is that what matters to you matters to me. If it's important to you, it's important to me, it's important to all of us. And like I said, I'm not paying her for the things she's saying. She's already had experience, and I appreciate everything. I'm just ecstatic as anything, like, you know, as all get up to be here in this whole process. And so basically, this is going to break up into 4 sections. The past, you just heard the past, and then it goes present, then it goes future, and then it goes and beyond, ... Again, this is Winter's Tale, broken up into 4 sections. What we're going to do right now is we're going to break this thing up, and we're going to give it a little bit of bumper music. And so what we're going to do right now is we'll be right back. Microphone's off. All right, we're back. Basically, what's happening is that I messed up there. I'm over here on the side. Again, we've got Winter here, A Winter's Tale. It's a four-part of her own series of what we're talking about here, but I messed up. I had the thing in front of me. We had a little bit of dead air. Again, I don't edit anything. What is heard, what is spoken, whatever's going on, it's most raw, most visceral, most straight coming at you. Shoot from the hip stuff. I've talked about all that in the open. Well, guess what? It's not just the open. It's what happens here. It's this process, this what we have going on here. So we're going to get back to Winter now. That was the past. This is present. This is going to break into what's going on with her now. And then we're going to get into, of course, future and then beyond. So, Winter, take it away.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, yesterday was Monday was my final day. That was very emotional. Every single time, like I said, there were certain things I would do each time someone came by, and realizing that it would be the last time I'd be doing them for a bit was something that really it was really hard to think about and everything like that. Right now I'm trying to figure out. I am planning on working at the theater again. So right now I needed to work to pay down my financial restriction. I will be planning to come back when I've done that so I can finish school. But yeah, right now we're kind of in the process of moving. We just cleaned out our apartment. The place we're going to is like really pretty. I tell you the address, but it's probably not the safest thing to do. So, but yeah, it's a very pretty place. And so, as I was saying, I've done podcasts before. One of the things I wanted to do in the previous podcast wanted to do with the person that was a host of the podcast that I didn't get a chance to do was a review of Wonder Woman 1984. So I'm going to be discussing that right now. For those of you who weren't a fan of the film, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you weren't a fan of the film, because it is maybe not all of you, but yeah, a lot of you weren't a fan of the film because it is like, I say on Twitter, it's the most divisive film since Batman versus Superman. I thought it was incredible. One of the things I found fascinating is how it was like a homage to the 1980s. Like it took place in the 1980s, and Patty Jenkins wanted to make the film into something that felt like it was released in the 1980s. And not only did she do that, but like she did that without, I mean, like everything felt like it was like kind of, some of those scenes felt like they came right out of a 80s fantasy film. But she also had this idea of kind of taking apart like what we see as the 80s, the glitz and the glamour and the beauty, and showing us just kind of some of the bad stuff about the 80s, like the fact that everybody was just, I mean, the rise of consumerism and how it caused everybody to care more about like getting what they want instead of about each other, and really caused them to forget, like, out of all the stuff they didn't have, what they did have was at least somewhat important and everything like that. And I loved the way it did that. I loved how it took it apart, or like I loved how it I loved how it did that without like by showing us the fantasy world, and then just by showing us that the fantasy isn't real, and that through certain aspects it's hard to navigate. Like the real world is hard to navigate, even if we had the fantasy elements, and it was incredible.
I have a sidebar note for you on that whole thing. See, 1984 was when I graduated from high school. Makes me very, very, very young.
1984 was when I was born, so it's so it probably makes him feel very, very old.
I feel great right about now. That's like, just like I say, I have a face for an audio podcast. Man, I feel so good. Man, it gives me context to realize that everyone's human. There's a frailty side of it, like Winter's talking about this movie, but it hits home because it's 1984. Amazing.
Yeah, and yeah, like some of the things I love, and then like Diana, like it's very interesting because like she's immortal, and she's living, like all her friends have died and everything like that, but like, and she's living in the past, but when you live in the past, you're not really living. And I found it fascinating, like how they kind of looked at that in the way of how she wished her dead boyfriend back to life, and was literally like tied to the dead and everything. There's some controversy behind that, like particularly the fact that she and her boyfriend got together in an intimate way and stuff. But for me, I kind of see it as like he's it's his life that is given to him, and he can choose how to live it and do what he wants with it, even if it was taken from somebody else. And I mean, like, the fact that it was taken from somebody else is what I find the most controversial.
And kind of jumping in, it's almost like he was the voice inside of her head. He was the conscious self-narration where she would go through things, and he played this flashback embodiment part of every time she would go into something, it would be back to a flashback of remembrance of them together in the situation, kind of tying it in, if you will. That's just my perception, because I did also watch the movie. That's how I kind of see it. Kind of like with Dexter, it's self-narrative. You're kind of intimate. You're in the head of the person. That's kind of how I saw that part too.
That is incredible. I didn't even think about that. And that's one of the things I love about this film is like, it's just, I mean, like a lot of people think it's like just some campy, like, attempt at redoing like the Superman, Christopher Reeve Superman films and stuff like that. But it's so much more than that. And that was something I was thinking about, I didn't even consider like the outward connection that's Diana's outward head narrations and stuff like that. But like she has that in the first film as well in Ares. Like Ares is what she's becoming and stuff like that. And like, I didn't even think about that. That's incredible. Yes.
And then here's another fun part, because I'm so old, I remember the actual TV show that was on with Linda Carter. And let me tell you something. This movie plays a close to the vest, closer role when it comes to the actual character that is the person that's Wonder Woman, that was a series, and that kind of part. It kind of takes those kind of fringes, if you will, and kind of adds those into kind of like a stew, if you will, of mixing up Wonder Woman and then creating that other person that's also the person from the past, also the person she is now, but also keeping those ties in with the boyfriend and everything that kind of all kind of put a bow on it. That's just my perception on it.
Yeah, and I love how it like this is the one that segues from the past into the present, as in the film, as in like Batman versus Superman and Zack Snyder's Justice League, and apparently she's going to be in the new Shazam film and everything. It just
amazing.
But yeah, it is amazing kind of seeing her become that person in Wonder Woman 1984, like realizing that by living in the past, she's not really living, and that she really needs, and then learning that, like, I mean, I love that they show how her refusing to, like, her wishing to bring her back her dead boyfriend was slowly killing her as well. And I thought it was fascinating how, like, and I thought it was fascinating how, like, she had to let him go to truly live. And that's also how she learns to fly. And it's just, I thought it was amazing. Yes.
I also have a compelling idea of this, too, because it's funny that, again, if she lives in the past, it's kind of like a proverbial anchor or an albatross around your neck. She can't spread her wings. Mm-mm. She cannot fly, soar, and do all these other metaphorical things and the wonderful things that you know that she is. The embodiment of what Wonder Woman is that belief in freedom, belief in truth, and lasso of truth, and all these other things that she has, and just what she stands for, with the shield and everything. She cannot be that person. That's a shell of her former self, living in the past. Like Winter was just saying, I'm not taking over, I'm just saying she's not allowed to soar. Emotionally, mentally, physically, and all other ways. Again, this is my perception. I'm just a hack when it comes to all this. Winter is the embodiment of all these things. In fact, again, this is just kind of a cursor, if you will, looking at this situation. Wonder Woman, she's that person, but here's what I also think, that Winter, given who she is, where she was before, and what she's turning and transforming into now, is kind of like the embodiment of who Wonder Woman is, kind of her ish, if you will. The true id of herself is kind of how she perceives and sees, and that's why this really struck a chord with her.
Yeah, that might be true. that I kind of relate to the character in that way.
It just feels that way.
And it's
it just feels that way, guys.
Yeah. Remember my favorite sociology teacher kind of said something similar about like how I kind of am Wonder Woman and stuff like that. Like I was wearing a Halloween costume, and she talked about like how like I was too late for the judging contest, and she said we couldn't. I mean, like you wouldn't have qualified anyway because you're dressed as Wonder Woman and you are Wonder Woman.
I can't see, I didn't know who this person was. I didn't know anything. Okay, now I also did my episode called "What's Your Superpower," and in "What's Your Superpower," the episode, I don't have the number in front of me. It's okay. It doesn't matter. It's all about listening. Well, here's the thing. When I went into the whole history of all the comics, about the 1940s is when truly, I think, when Wonder Woman started becoming a part of the actual process. So, again, if you get a chance, as a segue, listen to the What's Your Superpower episode. The Comic-Con Octagon is to die for. But anyway, back to this. I believe she started out in the 40s. I kind of went in that whole history, but there you go, Winter.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do love, like, how long these heroes have been around. It's incredible, just, like, how they've been a part of our history since Superman came about in 1938. That was his origin, was in 1938. Batman was in 1939, and like some of our most favorite superheroes have been around a long time, and they're our grandparents' favorite and our favorite. They're timeless.
And again, going back to the What's Your Superpower episode, I went into the complete history of the actual first comic, when it came out, and everything else to give exact credence and context to exactly what Winter is telling us all about. Just throwing it out there for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I haven't listened to the episode. I think I will after this podcast. So let's see. So
you wanted to talk about Black Adam?
Yeah. Well, I think we'll save Black Adam predictions for the future because, granted, that is going to be out tomorrow, but I do want to discuss predictions later on in the...
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Trying to get an idea of kind of where you want to go, but anyway, so...
Sorry. But yeah, we will be discussing Black Adam predictions for the future, so stay tuned for that. I think what we're kind of like discussing my Halloween costume, I think we're going to be discussing Halloween. Halloween Ends came out just recently. We both loved it. So my experience with when I was young, I wasn't allowed to watch rated R movies. It took me a long time, or it was, and it was kind of like, it wasn't so much the age as it was like our faith. Like we kind of discourage watching rated R movies and stuff like that because they in some ways they kind of like create the ideas of like horrible things that happen and everything like that. And I mean, the things themselves are horrible, but I feel like in storytelling in general, like especially when somebody who is telling the story is truly a good person, you can find like good in every story being told, and you can find ways to be a better person in every story being told. In this one of the things I thought was amazing about the original Halloween, in addition to the fact that it felt like it could happen, in addition to the way it was structured, it felt like it might have happened in 1978 and everything. One of the things I love about it is the fact that, like, Jamie Lee Curtis, as Laurie Strode, she also is just like one of us, and she's like we usually see our heroines as like courageous and without fear, and like there's no like we believe that we need to steal our fears, we need to steal our emotions. Like, steel as in, like, metal steel. We need to steal our emotions to fight back against our enemies, to fight back against what scares us. But the truth is, that fear can be crippling, but it can also motivate us to fight back and to act and to keep going even though we are scared. And that was something I loved about the original Halloween. That was something that really resonated. Yeah, and so like Laurie's strength, like motivated by fear, like from the minute she comes into contact with Michael Myers to the minute Dr. Loomis saves her. She's terrified, and she doesn't necessarily overcome that fear, but she doesn't let that fear prevent her from acting, from actually doing something to protect herself and to protect her, to protect the children she's babysitting and everything like that. And that's something I absolutely loved. Also, the mask, the way the original mask and the mask in these, in the 2018 to now, the way you can't see the eyes. It's something that's always captivated me about the look of Michael Myers.
The way I look at it like this, if you remember the movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre, okay, and Leatherface, it's that mask that you see that mask and it kind of sends a chill up your spine. Back to Laurie, well, what I think about it is that the fear paralyzed her, but then she kind of fed off of it, and she's a firm believer in standing up for what she believes in. And when it comes to for a cause between good and evil and everything else, she's kind of that referee in between everything. This is, again, my perception on this. I've watched them all. Again, remember, I'm old, remember?
Yeah.
Have we not forgotten? I'm in my mid-50s. I've already explained this to everyone out there. So if you're still listening and I'm this anciently old person and you're still here, thank you. But anyway, back to what's going on with our discussion is that, if you looked at people that believe in this country and everything else, and the embodiment of standing up for what you believe in, respect, admiration, appreciation, adulation, all these different things, right? Well, that's kind of who she is as that character. And that's really kind of close to Jamie Lee Curtis, I think, even as a person. So when they typecasted her in that role, I think it was just a perfect marriage, if you will, of an actor and the role they were in, such as Silence of the Lambs, right? Sir Anthony Hopkins in that movie married that role. We're going to get back to this Halloween vibe and back with winter. I'm just saying this is just me kind of throwing things in and kind of helping spin that yarn. But what do you think about that, Winter?
I agree. I do find that one of the things I found fascinating is how her motivation evolves throughout the films. And I mean particularly in this one, how her motivation kind of changes from it is initial good, but it's also she's how in 2018 she kind of locks herself up and has trained her daughter and trained herself in all kinds of combat and self-defense and stuff like that, just so she can kill Michael Myers, just so she can get her, to be more precise, the Shape, just so she can kill the Shape, and just so at that point she can get revenge on the Shape. And I love how that influences the rest of the trilogy in these new films. In that her desire for revenge kind of turns into a desire, the town's desire for revenge, and how that kind of circles back into and how that corrupts, not only she is teetering on the edge, but all the others are going over it. And I think that's interesting how her story evolves from the first episode to the next episode, and how it or from the first film to the next film and to the end, how one of the things how her initial pursuit is this is vengeance and everything like that, and evil dies tonight, and everyone joins into that evil dies tonight, and it and it's like the ironic use of it is that the evil that they're trying to destroy is the evil that's also like starting to corrupt them and everything. And I found it fascinating how it just evolves into that.
So basically, if you look at this in a psychology kind of a way, if you started out with a person who is in fear, they're paralyzed and everything else, and they need therapy and those kind of things, and they start out with that kind of situation, you have two paths you can take. You can either stand up for what you believe in and stand up against it, or you can cower and become a victim. Mm-hmm. She kind of along the way kind of had transformed herself into each and every one of those movies, kind of added something new and brought herself to a different realization that, yeah, and every time she thought that he was dead, he wasn't. She did that mental breakdown. She gave up. She kind of went away, locked in, was a locked in, like a panic room in her mind, and then came from that and realized that she had to rally and fight for other people, not just herself, rallying for the town and for everyone. Mm-hmm. So she kind of took herself along the way, kind of like dominoes, or kind of like those little steps going up the steps. She kind of took each step and kind of went up, and then became that higher level person, just as a human being. And so that's kind of what you see the embodiment of when it comes to the end. Not only has it grown into evil versus good and all these other things, but also the main characters, the two main. In fact, Winter, if you remember, you said, is it Michael or is it Laurie?
Yeah.
You even said that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, I can give you one sentence reviews of everything that I've of the films that I've seen and really enjoyed. Let's see, one that I'm with Nope, I tell people it's not just an invasion story. It's it's not your average alien invasion story where it's take meteor. The way I would describe it is it's less take meteor leader, more man versus wild. And I did, and with The Invitation, I'd say it's a combination of a tragic gothic romance and Get Out with vampires. And with this one,
good one. And
thank you.
Seriously, that's an awesome way in which to kind of spin that. Again, if you ask 10 people one thing, and they would then you'd talk about My Dog Has Fleas. Well, when it got to the 10th person, you never even actually realized what it was, because it would change every time, because everyone has a different perception. But this is also why Winter's on this podcast episode, because she's amazing in the way in which you didn't think of that. Wait, there's the twist. Here comes the hammer. There's the twist. Go.
Yeah, and one of the things I want, one of the things I was really looking forward to doing with this podcast is discussing, in every single film, Halloween, the sixth film of the franchise is Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, and everything is always Michael Myers, Michael. Everything's Michael, and we forget that the name of the monster, the name of the serial killer, going out killing all these people, the name of the man is Michael Myers, the name of the monster is the Shape. And I found it fascinating, and I tell people, and this film in particular, goes into full definition on what the Shape means. And in my one sentence review, I tell people, this isn't a story about Laurie versus Michael. This is a story about the Shape. And in this particular, and so this is for me, that's what Michael was the Shape. And that's, we're going to be discussing, that's what Corey is. That's what Corey became as well. And, I do want to kind of talk about Corey,
Yeah, and I did not know what he's talking about right now. This is some in-game level bleep. Okay, keep it classy. I'm not going to sit there and cuss and do all these other things. I've actually had a few episodes where I did. To stay classy, but this is next gen stuff right here, guys. You're getting this content, this value, and everything in this episode. And I'm going to let Winter get back to this, but I'll tell you right now, this is awesome. This is this. We're in the fishbowl. You guys are out of the fishbowl. You guys are seeing this again. We're not really seeing it, but you're hearing this, and you're getting. Just imagine that, that metaphorical fishbowl. You guys are out there. We're in the fishbowl, but we're all a part of this.
Yeah, and so kind of like, and yeah, like I said, this is the story of the Shape, and I absolutely love how, like. So with previous films, it's been all about, or like with the previous two films in this latest trilogy, it's like I can't precisely remember how Halloween Kills begins, but like with the first one, like the psychologists are holding out the mask and like trying to persuade him to like trying to drive him out so that they can talk to him, or so that they can kind of learn who he is, like in this true crime podcast and stuff like that. And yeah, I can't remember exactly how Halloween Kills opens. I don't know if you remember or whatever. Like,
man, you know what? It kind of went back to childhood and kind of gave you kind of this. It kind of did this flashback into the childhood kind of situation, and talking about the doctor. He was trying to talk him down from the ledge, trying to get the least amount of pain and all this reckoning stuff that Michael Myers was doing, was trying to talk him down from the crazy tree, if you will. No pun intended. And again, these are our opinions and views. We're not psychologists. We don't play them on the weekend. We're just saying.
Yeah. And yeah, I remember like it was a flashback to like 1978 and everything like that. And kind of the stuff that that wasn't in the film, and I thought it was fascinating how so for Dr. Loomis they used makeup, they used prosthetics to create to recreate the face of Dr. Loomis, which I thought was so much better than a CGI resurrection. Not to go off I don't want to get too much into it, but I feel like a CGI resurrection it feels wrong to me, with the exception of Egon. But like with Egon, he didn't talk in Ghostbusters Afterlife, but like with most of it, it just feels like a cartoon character that looks like a dead celebrity. But yeah, with that one, it's like it goes back to the 1970s and 1978. And the thing I found fascinating about this one was it went like with Halloween Ends was like a reverse of the opening of the very first film in the Halloween franchise. Like with the in Halloween, in the original Halloween, Michael Myers is alone with his sister and kind of goes up and like he picks up a knife, puts on a clown mask, kind of becomes a scary monster and murders his sister. And in this one, it's once again, and I mean like his sister's kind of his babysitter and stuff like that. And in this one, it's once again like the babysitter and the kid they're watching, and in this case it's Corey, and the kid he's watching, but it's an inverse in which Corey's the one that does the killing, and the babysitter kills the little kid. And it's I thought it was fascinating the way that they did that inverse, and really connects like the origins of Michael and Corey.
And so also, here's what I think, and every one of these movies, even to the first one, and I always say this as a common theme for every movie, and I've even talked to Winter about this. I said, look, if you have more questions than answers when it comes to a movie, did it really get it for you? So this one here, and again, this is my perception on watching it. It checked all the boxes. It covered the most ground, and it gave you that closure. Because every time, whatever we do, if you're streaming something, if you're watching something, if you're even talking to somebody, you want closure. You want to have the ability to be able to, if you close the door, you wouldn't want to go run back out because there's something else there. It left it on the table, left it all out there for you as a viewer and as a person into the movie, the franchise, and everything. It really checked all the boxes for me. What did you think about that, Winter?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was something I found fast. Like it just, and I mean, like it did. It was like there was, it rolled up a lot of things, but it also left you thinking. It left you, it was like it answered all the questions, but gave you more to think about in those answers, and everything like that, like things to ponder. One of the things I found fascinating is going back, talking about how that opening harkens back to the original film, is the idea of we've always been asking the question, ever since the series started, we usually have been asking the question, what was it that motivated Michael Myers to kill his sister? And we never think, what if there was no motivation? What if it was just something he just felt compelled to do? What if he just saw it in a horror movie and just duplicated it? What if there was an innocence to it in the same way there's an innocence to the present day? And what if it was what happened afterward that made him into the monster?
And the way in which I look at it, too, if you look at the classic cases of serial killers, which I will be doing a podcast episode on, you've got, of course, the mastermind of Manson, but you've also got Dahmer, you've got, basically Ted Bundy, you've got a whole bunch of these other type of people, and it could be a composite of all those, or it could be more like Dahmer, where it's more of a monster, didn't really say anything, just kind of acted upon impulses, and again, learned experience and things that maybe we don't even know what the true history of Michael Myers was in his family. Was he a foster kid? Did he go through foster houses, live from foster house to foster house? We really don't know the context, so you get a feel for that, just like Winter was just exactly elaborating on.
Yeah, but like I said, one of the things I found fascinating was it's so Michael Myers was in. So yeah, it could have been something innocent, as in he was just imitating what he saw on TV and everything like that. And what I find fascinating is it the act that makes someone a monster, or is it what they do afterward, or what their motive, or how they feel about it afterward? And one of the things I found fascinating about this is it really brought into the case the possibility that Michael Myers became a monster learned to become a monster behind, in the prison, as opposed to the first time he killed somebody. Imagining that he didn't talk. Dr. Loomis says he hadn't spoken for 15 years. And it's in all that time, where did his motivation start? And when did they become, or were they always insidious or whatever? Or did his motivations shift from confusion to guilt to desire to continue to murder and to continue to murder again and again? It was, oh, go ahead. Yeah, it was, yeah.
I was just going to say that basically, so the first time was probably something learned, through seeing either TV or whatever. But then after that, it's sociopathic. I bet you if you would have checked his heart rate, his pulse, and everything else, and you get him where he's just regular breathing, I guarantee you the whole time, it would have just been flatlined. You couldn't tell the difference between this situation, what he went through, and anything else. And with anybody else going through a very stressful situation like that, your heart would race, everything else, fight or flight, this kind of stuff, guaranteed ice water running through that guy's veins. That's intense. That's scary.
That's also fascinating in in the movies themselves, like in every Halloween film, like they kind of emphasize his breathing within the mask. Like it's almost as much like yeah, it's very calm. It's like just and you can hear it's almost as iconic as Vader in the except it's just regular breathing behind a mask, and it the idea that it's just so steady, like you discussing right now, it adds more perspective to it.
It almost reminds me of, if you watch Silence of the Lambs, that's literally one of my favorite movies of all time. It's Hannibal Lecter and all the things he goes through, no matter what. He still keeps just flat lines, just like you couldn't tell anything. And that's kind of what, like him in the mask, kind of reminds me of Michael Myers in the mask. Kind of a transference there.
Yeah, and it also kind of I didn't even think about that, but it's and I mean, kind of going back, but yeah, it is fascinating just kind of thinking that that was the iconic breathing, and now thinking how does that relate to his past and everything like that, or how does that relate to to his mental state, and so with this one, it's with Corey. It's the inverse. Instead of being locked away from society, he's in society. And instead of stewing on his actions and how they shift his personality, he's being tortured for his actions from a town that had gone from being peaceful and being and kind of hiding, or kind of pretending the monster wasn't real and stuff like that, to acknowledging the monster was real and being consumed by the evil of the monster and passing that evil on to Corey. And I find it fascinating, how it's how being locked away was what made Michael Myers into the Shape, and being corrupted by a society that was already twisted by the evil of Michael Myers is what makes Corey evil, or what drives Corey to become evil and everything like that.
Okay, so what we're going to do right now is this is the whole present thing. Again, I hope we didn't ruin anything, or no spoiler alerts here. Look, the bottom line is that if you were compelled to go see it, you've already seen it, and you know what? This is a way in which to rally as kind of that. And again, the three forms of my podcast is the Triad of Talk, where it's thumbs up, thumbs down for the Roman Colosseum. It's spitballing ideas with a round table discussion, like the Knights of the Round Table. And then the last thing is Town Hall, and it's a topic of discussion like right now. And Winter, metaphorically, is standing up and she's speaking her opinions on that. So this is a spoiler alert. I guess turn off this episode or go watch the movie. Get up off your proverbial backsides. Go out there and watch the freaking show.
And then come back.
And then come back and be an integral part of this whole thing. Because you know what? This is a Winter's tale. You're not Winter. She is. She knows who she is. And so this is the present part, again, of this 4-part deal, if you will, where it's past, present, future, and beyond. Did you want to go more with present? You can still continue to go,
I mean,
or we want to break it up and go into the other parts. It's up to you. Winter, this is your podcast.
Yeah.
You're the host right now.
Yep.
We're simply the listeners.
That's true. And I do apologize. Like I should have, or like I would have like usually said like let's go into spoilers, or that's what I usually hear from other podcasts, and that's definitely something I'll do when I start my own podcast. Maybe we can put like a spoiler alert in the description. It'll be the only description we do, but like spoiler alert for Wonder Woman 84 and Halloween.
Or you can use a disclaimer too. Like I used to use a disclaimer.
That works too.
But for you can definitely throw in that, look, I'm going to be talking about subject matter and discussions. If you didn't go watch this movie, guess what? I'm still pushing through, and it's an integral part of what I'm going to be doing as the podcaster. And I tell you, I've been talking to Winter about doing this for a long time. I'm going to let her get back to this. But anyway, she's going to be awesome. Again, I'm going to be doing a shout-out for her podcast and everything else. We're letting her get back into this. Again, this is the present part, or the second part of the 4 parts that Winter's doing. Again, it's a Winter's Tale, and she's telling it.
Yep. And, yeah, so I think it's... So we'll be discussing the... So I said the end of Halloween, and I tell everybody who asks, the end of Halloween Ends is the most ending of endings that has ever ended in the history of endings. Because it's just...
That was a high five on the microphone. Sorry.
Because that's... Because, like... You think he's coming back, Mike?
Here's the thing. It's like this: Freddy versus Jason versus Michael, and then versus Pinhead. And I don't know. You could throw this out there, and it could be Alien versus Predator. You could do whatever you want to with it. I'm going to say this: that, like I was saying, this movie checked all the boxes. You finally had all these elements. They finally come to where all these other things. It's like this big arena, kind of like the Arena of Ideas. And all these other episodes are kind of the way in which you're kind of taking that proverbial trip to get to this big arena. And in this big arena is the finality of it all. Almost Shakespearean, where it's, all the world's a stage, we're merely players. Well, in this merely players part, they finally get to checking all the boxes. It finally touched base with everything. The song concludes at the end, and it kind of gives you that... Putting the bookmark into that final part of the book, and now you can close the book, and you can leave it sit there, and you can still go into your preponderance on what's going on.
Exactly. And and kind of going into that, like, all the world's a stage, that was something I find fascinating, is like how Laurie finally killing Michael, and the way she... I mean, it is kind of brutal the way she does it, like the way she smashes his legs against the fridge and like pins him down and then stabs him, or then slits his throat. I mean, it is kind of brutal, but it's like...
Finally.
Exactly. It is kind of brutal, but at the same time, there's kind of a sense of it's no longer about revenge. It's no longer about hatred or everything else. It's about... It's time to put the evil to bed. It's time to let go, and to just, and it goes back to she's protecting herself, and she's protecting those she cares about. And it's like in the way that her pursuit of revenge drove the town to revenge, her resolve to protect the town and to give the town closure and to give the town peace results in the town gathering together to peacefully let go of Michael Myers. And I found it fascinating, like how it was the final disposing of his body is extremely brutal, but I find it fascinating how, like, when that scene first started, where they had him tied to the car, I thought it was just going to be them parading, or the sheriff parading him down the street. But as I watched all the or all the town people and everything like that joined together, it felt like a funeral procession. And it felt like they're giving this man, or this, they're giving the monster a final goodbye, but they're also saying goodbye to the man and everything like that. And I thought it was incredible.
And this, again, that's an amazing story. How good is the storytelling, guys? Let me tell you something. Mm-hmm. You know, it's out there to listen, and this is exactly the way in which I want my podcast to be. Why? Because if it matters to you, it matters to us, everything. How compelling is Winter in this process? And the way in which I see the ending of it is, and I like to relate a lot of things to entertainment and things. Okay, it's Wes Craven, right? Wes Craven's done many other things. Well, guess what? This is Wes Craven's version of this timepiece, historical timepiece of a Viking funeral, and the way in which when you see
John Carpenter.
Exactly, Carpenter. I'm sorry, John Carpenter. Sorry. See, we don't edit anything here, but anyway, John Carpenter. He's done many other movies, but anyway, this is like the historical timepiece of, like, metaphorically, a Viking funeral, and the way in which it was done to the end, and everybody was there. They want to make sure everybody was there in the process of the closure. Go ahead,
mm-hmm. And yeah, and that, I mean, like, I don't have much to add except for, like, yeah, speaking of John Carpenter, I loved how, no, it's all right. But speaking of John Carpenter, I thought it was kind of a little bit of a Easter egg there in the film, is like how in the 1978 film, like Laurie and like the kids she's with and stuff like that, they're watching the 1950 version of The Thing from Another World. And in the present version, like, they're watching the John Carpenter's The Thing. I thought it was a perfect, like, little tie-in. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on Halloween Ends. Is there anything else you want to discuss? Or
yeah, I was going to basically throw in with, okay, so what you got is this encompassing information and everything that she's thrown out there at you, and it's this embodiment. Well, see, now picture this. You've heard all these things now, what is going in the present, but think about this. You're walking up that proverbial podium, and that 10 to 15 seconds, now this is by far more of that time, but look, it's that same process. But imagine the intensity and all the wonderful things that she's given you, the content and everything else here. But in that 10 to 15 seconds, that way in which to, again, like the icing on a proverbial cake, puts that in. Imagine that. Matt, you see, we told you this, but imagine this is what you're seeing right now, and this is giving you that overtime, if you will, all these other extra things and these little added sidebar notes and cliff notes and all these other wonderful things. That is the embodiment of what she's talking about. What do you think, guys? This is amazing.
Thank you. And yeah, I mean, like, that's what I offer in just a few sentences, in just a single sentence or so, with no spoilers at Podium. Yep. So that concludes our present. We'll be back with the future.
Okay, so basically, let me throw one more thing in there. Just remember, guys, everybody out there, men, women, children, everybody else that's out there, every human being with auditory canals listening. Look, let me tell you something. This is the kind of premium content and wonderful things you're going to get with Winter's podcast. Again, I'm not doing anything she wouldn't have already told you, but let me tell you something. Total shout outs, everything else on my podcast. And it's going to be, there's Must See TV, okay, whatever it was, Thursdays. Bleep that, okay? We're talking, it's important to listen. It's going to be important out there content and things you're going to want to hear. That's the kind of information and wonderful content and things you're going to get when her podcast comes out. You're hearing this now. It's only just, it's going to be the next level, next chapter of what you're going to hear. We're going to break into some bumper music now to go into the future part. And so what we're going to do right now is, what do you think, guys? That's 2 parts, man. That's like 2/4 of a 4-quarter game.
Yeah.
And you know what? What do you think, Winter? What do you think so far? What are you thinking?
I'm really enjoying this. This is doing it in a more professional level has been really interesting. Kind of doing it not only doing it one-on-one, but kind of like starting with me and stuff like that. I find it fascinating, and it's getting me more excited to start my own podcast.
And again, I've told her all this, but look, it's not an interview. It's not an interrogation. It's a conversation. Mm-hmm. It's the crossroads of conversation and content.
Yep, that's true. All right.
Okay. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to break into some music, and then we're going to be right back. So we'll be right back.
Oh.
All right, we are back. That was, of course, some more bumper music. I love the music. Again, we want to break this up and make it interesting, intriguing, and all things awesome, just like winter is. So, basically, we're going to break into, this is now the future we're going to be going into.
Yeah, so, Halloween Ends has got to be, if it's not my favorite in the franchise, it's definitely in the top 2. But the Rotten Tomatoes, it is very divisive. Not very many people are fans of it. Some of them consider it one of the worst. Some of them consider it terrible and stuff like that. The Rotten Tomatoes score, if I remember correctly, is a 38, and that astonishes me. But I don't know. Some of my all-time favorite films have really really low Rotten Tomatoes scores, and hopefully my upcoming favorite film that's got currently a Rotten Tomatoes score of 55, which is one notch below, or 1 point below Man of Steel, which is another one of my all-time favorite films and one of my all-time favorite comic book films. Black Adam has a Rotten Tomato score of 55%.
Real quick before we get back to A Winter's Tale with Winter, by the way, everything in Rotten Tomatoes, anybody in any newspaper goes out and does a column and writes about movie reviews and all this sort of stuff. You know what I do with that? I take it, I throw it in the circular file, I tell myself, I don't care about a trailer, I don't care about what anyone else has to say, I will take their word for it, and I will listen because I value everyone's words. But guess what? When it comes down to, I'm going to watch this movie, this is why I love this movie, Winter's been standing up for what she believes in, and whatever's going on in the procession of this podcast, it's like this. It's called a circular file for a reason, and that's where I file many things. When everybody else wants to stand up, I think the complete opposite. And why? Because you find your comfort zone. You find your happy place in this life. And you know what? You're going to go watch it no matter what. I don't care. The tomatoes, the Rotten Tomatoes are not paying your ticket to go in or do anything for you in the process of. I'm going to leave it at that. Anyway, that's my perception on it.
I do hope you listen to my reviews when those come out.
No, I do. Well, hold on. I do listen to your reviews. You matter, and everything you say is amazing. I'm saying just these people. Okay, I mentioned.
It was just rhetorical.
No, I know it's rhetorical, but like I said, that talking heads on radio and TV, they give you lip service. They're telling you this because they're paid to go out and make this review. Just like if a movie goes out and wins the Oscar, wins all these Oscars, the ones that are best for Oscars, I don't watch those movies a lot of times. You know why? Mm-hmm. Because I have a sleep meter I go by. The more I fall asleep to a movie, that's my indicator on it. I'm going to let Winter get back to this. No, what she has to say is completely amazing and just it's the kind of wonderful content that you're hearing right now. That's what I'm listening to, because it's that true insight, that true intellect, and everything else that really drives everything. I'm letting Winter back into this. It's circular file. I'm sorry, you get paid to talk about it. It's passion. To me, it's passion over being paid. You're paid over passion. Moving on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree. Like, most of the time, like, I don't really pay attention to them. If I want to see the film, I'll see the film regardless of whether or not it's regardless of the Rotten Tomatoes score. And yeah, with this one, I've been looking, or I first Black Adam was cast in 2000, or Dwayne The Rock Johnson was cast as Black Adam in 2006 or 2007. I read there was a comic that came out around the same time called 52, and he was one of the Black Adam was one of the main protagonists. And reading that comic for the first, or like, that was my first introduction to Black Adam. And it started with him, like, so he's somebody that lost his family, and it drove him to pursue revenge, and it drove him to kill so many people, like, became a mass murderer and kind of a despotic dictator of his country. And then he finds somebody that, like, ignites, that, like, reignites his passion and, like, helps him find love again. And it starts to drive him to become, like, somebody that, or it starts to drive him to become, like, your average or like a superhero. And, like, one of the things that's notable about Black Adam is he rarely, if ever, smiles. And, like, he's smiling so much and he's so happy. And then once, like, all the villains in his life come against him and kill off that one bit of happiness. And you see, like, what that does to him, and it drives him against all the other superheroes and everything like that. And when I first heard, like, that Dwayne The Rock Johnson was going to be cast as Black Adam, my first thought was, well, he looks a lot like him. I think that's a really cool thing. But also, I really wanted to look forward to seeing him bring that to his character as Black Adam in the film. And that's one of the things I'm looking forward to. That's one of the things I've been waiting 14, 15 years to see. And I've said many times, like, to everyone at Podium, Black Adam's my most anticipated film of the year. And that's something I'm really looking forward to. I'm expecting, so it's rated PG-13. I just read recently that it was initially going to be rated R, or like, when they finished it, they realized it was rated R, and so they had to cut back. I'm hoping they add those scenes back in a later cut or whatever, but, like, I am super excited for this. What about you, Mike? Are you excited for this?
I am. I'm like totally. I did not know some of the stuff you just talked about in the movie.
Right?
I had no idea. Again, that's that extra value content. Remember that thing about these little sidebar information, these little wonderful little snippets, and all these wonderful things that she has to give. Well, it's amazing, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I guess you could almost. I almost look at it like Vin Diesel. What's the movie? I can't think of it. Where he's on, like, another planet or whatever.
Pitch Black.
Pitch Black. It almost kind of has that feel to me. Even when I saw the trailers, it's dark. It's kind of on a different place, and it's kind of like Pitch Black with Vin Diesel, and it has kind of those dark, brooding, underlying type, hateful, wonderful, horrible, wonderful, all these things all together, these emotions, and I kind of see him as that kind of a character in portraying in this movie.
Also, the fact that, like, it feels like he was, like, the role was meant specifically for him, like with Riddick and with Black Adam, like with Riddick for Vin Diesel and with Black Adam for Dwayne The Rock Johnson. It feels like the role was made for him, and yeah, I'm super excited. Like, and yeah, I'm one of the, and like, that's one of the things that's very exciting about Black Adam is like, some people will ask, who is Black Adam? And I'll tell people I don't go into comic history very much, but like in Shazam, like there's this scene that talks about the chosen champion, or the original champion that they chose and how they chose wrong and how he caused all kinds of devastation, used his power for revenge and like destroyed civilizations, and how he let loose the 7 deadly sins. And everybody's like, you remember who that, or like, and I tell people, you remember like that character in Shazam that they were talking about? That's Black Adam. And I cannot wait. Yeah, it is super exciting to see like, this guy is going to be our protagonist in the next film. And then there's the Justice Society. Are you familiar much with the Justice Society, Mike?
A little bit. And the Hall of Justice, in fact, here in Pueblo, they basically have a place called the Hall of Justice. It's not exactly those words, but I call it that.
Yeah.
And anyway, I'm aware of some of the stuff because, again, I went into the What's Your Superpower episode and kind of went into how did the Marvel Universe start, and and DC and all these other things. But I don't know too much about it. I know I'm actually learning a lot through this episode right here, this podcast episode. And is it a Winter's Tale or is it not a Winter's Tale? That is the true question in Shakespearean fashion. Just saying.
Yeah, and yeah, like that's and I mean, like there is a Hall of Justice. I can't remember the original hideout for the Justice Society. So one thing people don't know, or like people are just learning about the Justice Society and in discussions about Black Adam and everything, but they preceded. Like they were the Justice League came out in the 60s. The Justice Society came out decades earlier. They were the original super team. They were the one, and they were the and I mean like that's so the Flash we have now, the Green Lantern we have now. They're Hal Jordan, Barry Allen, all these characters. They're just the next generation of. But yeah, in the Justice Society, Alan Scott was the original Green Lantern. Jay Garrick was the original Flash, and it's like there's this whole other history that's being built with Black Adam that I find fascinating. Like we've seen like what's Wonder Woman, or we've only seen the history of the DC film cinematic universe from the perspective of Wonder Woman, but with each new film, the universe is expanding and the history is building and everything like that. And in Zack Snyder's Justice League, we learned that the original pantheon of gods saved the world, joined the Atlanteans and joined the Green Lanterns in defeating Darkseid and the forces of Apocalypse. And now we're about to learn about this whole new super team. I find it fascinating. I'm super excited.
It's utterly amazing. I mean, this is so much. I I could go through a book and try to read from some script or read from a book and do all these things, but you're getting this off the top of her head. Amazing. Just, it's almost, no pun intended, overpowering in the way in which that it's just so captivating. And what you're hearing from her right now is a way in which I explain this whole thing as how she should create a podcast and do this, and it's going to be with her brother and everything. But anyway, that what you're hearing now and how you're drawn in right now is exactly the reasons why I said she's one of the top 10 to 12 people that I know would be just an amazing addition to the podcast family. And so when Winter does come out with this podcast, it'll be amazing. But what you're hearing right now is just unadulterated amazement from me. It's like mind blown, and obviously all of you out there.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Just every time he talks about, like, just discusses me, it just makes me feel so good, and just lifts my spirit, and like makes me feel like so grateful to have met my friend Mike, and to have met all my moviegoers. I'm just so grateful for everyone that I've had. Like, I'm so grateful that I've been able to give this experience, give this motivation to, like, in just a few sentences, to everybody that comes by the podium. And yeah, so
it's a gift and a skill. She can play this down, #humble brag. But truthfully, it's an amazing, insightful gift that, like I said, every time I start questioning, should I do a podcast? What should I do? 3 or 4 people come up with different ideas and different angles and different things and different perspectives that just pumps me back up and makes me realize I'm doing the right thing, just like Winter is right now. Again, it's a gift. It's a skill. Not everyone can do this. Not everyone has this ability to sit here and walk this proverbial tightrope across high wind, walk straight across it, no pulse is flat, and walks all the way across the other side and goes, is that all you got, metaphorically? The answer is no, but it's a gift and a skill.
Thank you very much. And yeah, it's I don't know if I don't notice it, but it seems everybody else does and stuff like that. But anyway, but yeah, like, so do you have your tickets for Black Adam yet?
You're asking me?
Mm-hmm.
You're asking the other guy on the other side of this microphone. Again, this is a Winter's podcast, and and she's simply the host, and I'm simply the listening audience right now. And again, like this arena, we're sitting around this campfire, and she's spinning yarns. Well, I don't actually have the tickets for it yet. I don't. I can't wait though. I'm gonna, it's a process, a matter of just getting to it, but I will have those tickets.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. I got my tickets just a couple of weeks ago.
Awesome.
Like, as soon as they went on, like the day they went on, like at least within a couple of hours after they went on sale. I would have done it the minute, but like I was up till midnight and they weren't on sale yet. And then it was like, it looked like I guess it was like after noon the next day or whatever. But like within minutes, I was getting my tickets. I'm going with so I have some friends, so at CSU Pueblo, I was a member of a number of clubs. One of them was the Anime Club, and I'm going with three of the members of my club and my brother to see this film. It's going to be the last time we hang out for a while. It's going to be the last time I do. This last couple of weeks, I've been kind of like doing all the things I've wanted, or like I've been hanging out with one of my friends. Like we've got this kind of weekly dinner tradition, Taco Tuesday. Like we don't always have tacos. Sometimes it differs from week to week. But like I wanted to make sure I had I wanted to do that one last time with her. Mike's been after me for a long time for me to like to get me set up for this podcast. He's been saying that he's been saying what you've been hearing, that like he sees the potential in me, and he sees that like he's been telling me like people listen to you, and like people like want to hear what you have to say and everything like that. And all he's heard is just select sentences, and like sometimes we'll talk about the movies and stuff like that, or just short sentences, and sometimes we'll talk about the movies and stuff like that. But like it just gives me so much. It just builds up my spirit to hear him talking about my potential and everything like that.
So basically what's happening is that like if you're in the fishbowl, you don't realize you're in it. Fish, the whole water controversy with fish. Anyway, bottom line is that some people, and again, I have had the same thing where people tell me, Mike, you have this amazing voice where you could be a sportscaster or a person on the radio or a commentator or something. Mike, you're very compelling. What you say, people are listening, they're drawn in. Well, it's the same thing for Winter right here, that she would start speaking, and the more she would start saying things, more people are drawn in. In fact, it starts with one person, then all of a sudden it's 2 or 3 people, and they're all drawn in, and it's gathering around and listening to the narration and adaptation in life, in movies, and everything, in an embodiment of her as a person. And you can feel the energy, the vibe, and everything else. It's just something. She has that it factor. Real quick saying, people have it, and if the person has it, you know it when you see it. Okay, it's proof is in the pudding. Proof is whatever way you want to put this. Bottom line, when you talk to people, it's a process, and there's certain people when you come across them, it's like chills running up your spine, and you know it's something there. You know there's something there, and you haven't put your finger on it, but you know it when you see it, and you know it's there, and that's Winter.
Thank you very much. I know a lot of people have been telling me that. I probably need to learn to listen.
See, I'm not the only person.
And and in terms of that, like in terms of just all the people being drawn in and stuff like that, I've decided. So yesterday or Monday was my last day. And I did kind of go over the fact that all these things that I'm going to be doing for the last time, it's kind of broken my heart. And one of my concerns is, kind of brought tears to my eyes. And one of my concerns has been what am I going to do when they leave, or what am I going to do, or what's going to happen to my moviegoers when I'm gone? Who's going to tell them the little extras and everything like that? And so what I've decided to do is I've gotten some contact, or I have contact information from some of my coworkers, and I've been given contact information from some of my coworkers, and I gave contact information from my boss. And so go ahead.
No, you did all that, but now these are ways in which people can get a hold of you. Again, with Twitter and everything else. Tell everybody, again, this is the curtain is closing on this, no pun intended, the curtain is closing on this little part of her life, but she's going to be going on to this future part she's going to be discussing. But again, give out Twitter, give out whatever else, and way in which they can get a hold of you until you get your podcast together.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at SuperWinterGirl. I use my full name on Facebook. I don't know if I should use my full name here. But just type in Winter. There aren't very many Winters on Facebook.
No, you do what you want to do, Winter. I'm just saying I usually go first name only because this is not an interrogation, an implication of anything. It's simply who you are. But if you want to do that, you can give out your full name.
Yeah. So I'm on almost everything else as Winter Naomi Vera. And so I've decided that, for starters, I'm going to be sending, for everybody that has my contact information, or at least every moviegoer, every coworker that has my contact information, I'm going to be sending you texts about mid-credit scenes and post-credit scenes. Yeah, group texts. Or maybe individual texts. Either way, you're going to be getting, or I'm not letting you go. Or I'm not you're still going to have that. I'm still going to give you those mid-credit scenes. I'm still going to give you those post-credit scenes. I'm still going to give you things to look for, and I'm still going to give you those little one sentence reviews.
How about this? How about the human Hallmark card? How about that?
I suppose I could. Like, just, yeah, Hallmark has the ways to say you care. I suppose doing that is one of the ways to say I care.
Right, but I'm saying that's what reminded me of. That's what that reminded me of right there.
Mm-hmm. And,
So now, Winter, okay, the curtain is lowering here, and you're in Pueblo,
and so, yeah,
So basically, the sun's going to set here in Pueblo, and you're going to have to come to realization that you're going to be going to your new digs, if you will, no pun intended, in quotes, air quotes. But what's that going to be like now? Because that's what we're going to look at now is throwing the future of where you're going to be. But, you know, the world's it's a doorstep away, basically, because of technology. So what do you got?
Yeah, so my dad got a job in Washington, and everybody in the family's moving to Washington. I'm moving to Washington as well.
State.
Yeah, Washington State.
Sorry.
Yeah, a lot of people need to remind me about that because I keep forgetting. There is DC and everything. Like, for me, it's always just been Washington, as like Washington State has just been Washington because it's just the one word.
And here you go. The reason why it's Washington State, because her version of DC is the comics. Boom, there you go.
Hell yeah. I like that idea. And or that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, so I'm moving to Washington with my family. Right now, the closest Cinemark is an hour and 8 minutes away. I'm going to be doing painstaking research into trying to make that commute as inexpensive and as I'm going to do everything I can to try and make that commute as inexpensive and as painless as possible on everybody. If I can't make that commute, I am applying for other theaters and everything like that. But that's where I'm going right now. And I hope you guys join me when I finally decide, or when I finally come up with, when I finally have everything set up for my podcast with my brother.
Well, and here's the thing. If you're in the area, the vicinity, or the region in which she's going to be going to in Washington State, just remember, carpooling and everything else, who knows? I'm not saying to put yourself out there and go crazy like that, because there could be some people out there that are kind of like sociopaths, like we just discussed with Halloween. But I'm just saying that she's going to definitely need some new people and some new information, new people and new things when she gets out there, because, you know, life doesn't end. We just keep on perpetually going.
Right. And, yeah, that's kind of some of my future things. And also kind of building myself up, physically, emotionally, spiritually, everything like that. Like being complete or completing one journey and starting another. It's been great. It's been great talking with you all. It's been great talking with you, Mike. And I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm glad I was able to do this I was able to do this, our first and last time together before my move to Washington.
Well, see now, Winter, the whole thing is that you asked about what it's like for a podcast. You already had experiences in podcasting and everything else. And so this kind of gave you this kind of intimate setting, this intimate situation where it wasn't just, you know, I'm going to say these things, you're going to hear what I'm having to say, and you're just going to sit there and comment and whatever else. And if I decide to put it on, so be it. No, it's an important thing to know that the Arena of Ideas is that it's everyone else's ideas and the culmination of ideas and humor and entertainment and whatever else you want it to be that is portrayed to be the important part of what happens. And look, a long time ago, people stopped caring and stopped this and that, and they just as soon walk over you like a doormat than they would to shake your hand. And I'm done with all that, because that's why this is here. It's your voice. It's your opportunity to do and say whatever you want to say and put whatever you have out there. If it's down to a first name only based upon an episode, or I don't care what it is, everything matters. It's all things, everything, anything for everyone. Why? Because this is your podcast. I'm the host, but right now, actually, Winter is the host of the podcast. So what are we doing now, Winter?
I think it's about time to wrap up. Again, you can listen for my full name, or you can kind of rewind for my full name. You can find me at Super Winter Girl on Twitter, and it's been great. It's been great talking with you guys. I can't wait. I hope to see you at Black Adam, or I hope you got your tickets. I think it's going to be an amazing experience, and I'm looking forward to what the future brings. Have a great night.
Okay, so hold on, guys. What we're going to do is I'm going to break into a situation. We're going to go into the bumper music. I'll get into the comedy corner. I'll get in the commercial read. And ironically, the commercial read, of course, is going to be for Cinemark Tinseltown here in Pueblo, Colorado. Again, it's more than just that. There's multiple locations and multiple parents, multiple companies within the same parent. I'll be getting to that right now here in a moment. I'm going to break away for some commercialization, and then we're going to go for the close and everything. But that was, what do you think, guys? That was Winter. That was raw, visceral, an insight into the mind, the psyche, and everything else that is the all-encompassing, incomparable person known as Winter. All right, so what we're going to do right now is, again, that was Winter, A Winter's Tale. This has been great. And now we're going to get into a little bumper music, and I'll come back with everything else. Here we go. All right, and we are back. I thank you guys for listening. This is awesome. The first opportunity. It took 27 episodes to finally get somewhere and to talk to someone else other than just me behind the microphone and everybody else out there listening. I want to put it out there, too, that in Australia, England, and Ireland, people are listening on the Apple Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. All right, we're going to go into Comedy Corner right now, and again, that was amazing. That was wonderful. That was great. That was just a content. That was content gold right there. Thanks again, Winter, for A Winter's Tale this episode. And now let's just jump into some Comedy Corner stuff. All right. My first time using an elevator was a uplifting experience. The second time let me down. All right. I'd have to change my name. I'd have to change my name. Slept like a log last night. Oh, that's right. Woke up in the fireplace. Excuse me. Why does moon rock taste better than earth rock? Because it's a little meteor. All right, that was enough torture there for the wonderful Comedy Corner. Crossing those off. All right, guys. Well, let me tell you something. This was a wonderful experience today. And I'm going to get into the Cinemark read, if you will. And then we'll go into the close. I'm not going to have the mic check or anything else we went way over on this episode again. hey, it happens when you're talking about somebody else. You're talking about the process of communication, and that's what happens. So I'm going to skip the mic check, and I'm also going to skip the Remember the Legends, but everything else is here for us. All right, actually, before I do the commercial read, I'm going to do a rebuttal, and this is pertaining to Carrie and Laura, two valued listeners who love to listen to the podcast, and this is pertaining to the Free Internet Not Free episode. All right, so, and this is basically tied in with Mike's mess up, so it's a rebuttal / Mike's mess ups. The mistake isn't in the process and the details in the episode Free Internet Not Free, because again, it's $33 billion pertaining to internet. Well, I got some feedback from Carrie and Laura, two valued listeners. They were, the discussion was, they said that I was kind of I came off kind of mean-spirited. And again, my opinions, I gave you the read on the fact that, it's my opinion, it's opinions of the guests and everything else. Well, I kind of let some emotions and other things kind of carry over into the process of the whole episode. I kind of let things spill over instead of being the host. I kind of just threw some mean-spirited and angry things out there, denigrating and bringing some people down. And my goal is not to do that. My goal is to uplift everyone. And so I kind of went in and kind of, stepped on the toes of some of the people dealing with the phones and things. And look, I'm not here to knock on communication or the opportunity that we all have to communicate. And looking at it now, it's an opportunity for through phones or through other things that people can get. And maybe you can't afford everything, but the bottom line is that we need to communicate. And so I kind of spilled over into more angry and kind of different things in which, instead of staying on point and dealing with the process of the actual meat of what it was truly about, I kind of I veered off a little bit and did not do what I should have done truly in the form of being the host and then focusing and doing the process within that episode. Okay, so again, if there's any miscommunications or misunderstandings in the process of that episode and in the future, please let me know. I want to try and get the best content and get the best situation out there for all of us to enjoy, to appreciate, and to consume when it comes to the whole everything. All right? Again, it's a mic mess up, and it's mess up because it's not the whole thing. It's just, I kind of got lost in, the whole sauce, if you will, and the whole process, and didn't keep on point and on task as to, the whole enchilada when it came to that episode. All right. So now I'm going to do a commercial read, and this is, an opportunity kind of tying in with the, episode as well, because again, Winter worked at this location. They have other places and things as you're going to hear, but, here we go. So just a ticket for the movies to hit the silver screen. Cinemark takes comedy, drama, and action to the next level. Thousands of locations nationwide. Find one nearest you. Here in Pueblo, Colorado, David Buck and crew do a wonderful job making sure each patron has the best experience possible. Located off Dillon Drive and I-25 here in Pueblo, Colorado. Again, the Front Range has multiple locations in Colorado. And anyway, so look up Cinemark, Tinseltown, and there's a bunch of other parent companies all over the whole country. Look into them, look them up, and go attend. All right? So, Discount Tuesdays are in effect, and movie magic at every showing daily happens at Cinemark, Tinseltown, where service and cinema make it fun for all ages. Please do enjoy. Go check them out. David Buck and company and the team all do a great, wonderful job. Winter was a great integral part of that team. They made it all happen. Okay. So anyway, if you get a chance, please do go check them out. See what you think. All right. And so I'm going to break into the close. It's been way over again, according to most of my normal podcasts. This, of course, is a conversation, so it does play a little differently. But anyway, the ultimate thing is that this is a reinforcement of telling everyone out there that you matter, I matter. We matter. Everyone matters. Everything in here, my open, my close, everything else is all for you guys. This is an opportunity for all of us to interact, again, either as family or as friends or any way you want to look at this. But that's what matters most to me and matters to all of us. All right. So again, I'm going to bypass a couple things. I wanted to make sure that Carrie and Laura were both taken care of in the process of my mess up, so to speak, kind of like mopping the floor, bucket spilt, so now you got to pick up and clean up. Well, there you go. All right. So anyway, the ways in which to reach me. I have the 12 platforms, 13, going to be 14. You've got my email, michaelkingston723 at Yahoo. You've got my phone number in the information block. You've got the 4 forms of social media now, FIST, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. You've also got YouTube. I'm going to be on TikTok here soon. I'll be announcing that. And Amazon Music will be joining the fold, if you will, when it comes to the process of it. Okay, so. Oh, and if you're listening for the first time, I want to welcome you. If you've been a diehard person listening and being a part of the process of listening and downloading and subscribing and everything else you can do to help my impressions to keep this whole thing going, I thank you for still being here. And all of you matter, remember? And it's all the talking heads and everything else that don't matter. Well, they do, but they give you lip service. Here we get real service. Again, if it's your first time, welcome. If you've been here before, I thank you for still coming back and being a part of the process in any capacity, the way in which you want to look at this. Okay? So, until next time, this has been your host, Mike Kingston of the AOI Arena of Ideas podcast, your podcast. Have the best of the rest of your day. And until next time,